that way.
Okay, cool.
So we're only 16 hours of difference, right? Because you're right now in Sydney and we're in Colombia.
Exactly. So it's effectively kind of like 8 hours.
So it's an early day for you, Rags. But let me tell you, this is one of the podcasts that I really, really, really wanted to do because I've been in crypto since 2013, and I've been experimenting with almost everything. I mean, you buy your first Bitcoin, you learn about Cardano, you hate it, then you do Ethereum, you hate it, and then you learn about Solana, and you're like, wow, this is interesting. And in the process, we get to experiment and do a whole bunch of different things. And so you do staking, you do experiments with different types of mainnets. In fact, a few months ago, that we were experimenting with a few other crypto cards, Sebek and Spritz. And a friend of mine sent me Kast. And man, you do not understand what a game changer. Our podcast is about probably 50 to 100,000 followers.
Yeah.
And our little chat, which is like 85 friends that are just like aficionados that like to invest in everything from technology, Tesla, Palantir, Solana. 95% of them are all using Kast. And they're based in San Francisco, Miami, Mexico, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, the UK. It's the single product that they love the most because the UI is just
amazing.
The UI is just amazing. It just works. My mom, which is 74, uses. My mother-in-law, which is like 70, also uses it. Daddy was just telling me, like, dude, I just activated my daughter who is 15 with a Kast card. So this is a product that is like, I do not understand why people like in countries like in the US do not realize that this is just how you really adopt people and bring them to the blockchain, because this is just a game changer. And it's so easy for everybody here because I'm giving a long introduction and then we'll start talking because you take a picture, you scan your ID and boom, it's done. And then you just load it with USDC or USDT and it's as easy as that. And I've been traveling all around the world. Never has it been declined? Never. Accepted in every single place I've been. And I've been in Singapore, in Thailand, in San Francisco, in Miami. In Spain. So that the thing just works. So we really wanted to have a podcast with a product that we just have. I don't know, the NPS internal of a group. I don't know. It's probably 95 plus or whatever, but it's just a very good thing. So that's kind of like the quick introduction. Now, I want you to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your background, because we tried to get together in Singapore, but you just were overwhelmed and running around. So between Breakpoint and Token 2049, I mean, it was difficult to catch up, but I was able to meet with your team. By the way, they were doing an extremely good job. But Rags, I know your name is Raagulan, but it's okay. Cool. It's cool if we call you Rags. Okay.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? I mean, what were you doing before, and why did you start at Kast? And we'll talk about the intricacy and why a product like this just goes like wildfire in countries like Colombia, Mexico, Thailand, Argentina. It just works.
Yeah. Well, firstly, thanks for having me on the podcast. And I know it's taken a long time to get this together, but I'm looking forward to coming to Colombia soon. I think you promised me you're going to show me around Medellin, one of my favorite cities. So
have you been here or before? Or
Yeah. I've been to Medellin. I've been to before. So,
no way.
It's really a great place. So yeah, looking forward to visiting again. At that time, I was just looking around. So now, hopefully, I have some friends to show me around.
No, definitely.
Anyway, so. Yeah, my name is Raagulan. I was one of the founders of Kast, and we actually only launched 4 months ago. So I think you must have been in the users in the first month or two, and we built it super quickly in like 2 months or so. And before joining Kast, just for some background, I set up the Asia business for Circle, and Circle is best known for USDC. Obviously, the two biggest stablecoins are USDC and USDT. And I did that for around 2.5 years or so. I was actually the CEO for the Singapore entity where they had the main license here in Asia. And so really, I've been under the skin of stablecoins very, very deeply for 2.5 years or 3 years or so. Prior to that, I was actually, trading a lot of crypto. And I actually separately, apart from Kast, also have a crypto hedge fund as well, liquid hedge fund. Half of it's my money. But I was primarily in tech. So I worked at Zoom actually for a few years prior to the pandemic, and because I had a whole bet on transformation of remote working infrastructure. And then prior to that, I worked at Facebook and I worked in Amazon Web Services as well. And I had my own cloud company back around 2010, before cloud was really a thing. So I guess the trend here is that I love crypto, and of course, like I'm so deep in the crypto hole now that I don't think I can get out or move industries ever again. But I think the major thing here is that I've worked in tech for like 20 plus years. I've seen the transformations in different types of technology and banking. I've worked at telcos. I've been at the forefront of selling different types of technology, and I can see when there is like significant economic shifts and technology shifts about to happen. When I came to Circle, it was at a time when when I was talking to them, it was during the 2021 bull run, when things are going like completely crazy, but everyone was very focused on all the tokens and the coins and the trading and everything else, right? But I really felt like stablecoins are underlying infrastructure, and all the things that you've seen up until now, all the amazing fintechs, are largely what they call like lipstick on a pig, right?
Yes.
It's really just like a UI overlay that's sitting on something that is not really fundamentally changing underneath, right? Versus stablecoins, I feel, really a substantial rewrite, at least of the US dollar system globally as well. And one of the theories that I have is that, the internet really came into the mainstream 30 years ago. And essentially what's happened is that that's meant that 5 billion plus people are online. And initially they could, you could do online shopping and you could send goods globally. Then that became services. But money never kept up. Like, money is very much regulated locally. It's very, very local, right? And it's really this stablecoin infrastructure that's really ripped it wide open, that has put at least US dollars on chain and made US dollar banking effectively open to the world. But when after, Circle was an amazing company, Jeremy Allaire, great leader. But after 2.5 years, I was also pretty burnt out, to be frank with you, just from all the travel and just the expectations of having like an executive role. And so then I took a step back and I thought, what problems really need solving? And to me, I felt like one of the hardest things about stablecoins is usability. So you can, at the moment, if you have a stablecoin, you've got to go to an exchange, you've got to go to a wallet.
Super complicated.
Yeah, it's concy. And so that means that it's like constrained to a small segment of the population who are really like going to use stablecoins. No matter what barrier you put in front of them, they're going to use it anyway, right? And so, but I think you could use stablecoins for like, there's at least 2 billion people right now, and potentially many billions more, that would actually need stablecoins. If you look at crypto, there's about 200 million people that trade crypto. So I think the opportunity for US dollars on chain for stablecoins is actually like 10x what crypto is potentially, right? And I love, and this is coming from me, like, I'm a Bitcoin maxi and I love crypto, but I still see that the opportunity more short term is much bigger. But you have to go and tackle the really hard problems. Like, how do you deliver a platform where you can have a card that's available to lots of people? This means really hard work with regulators, really hard work with card issuers. We'll be issuing cards in multiple jurisdictions. And then you have to look at like, how do you get money in and out of crypto? Now, in some countries, we know that people largely OTC, or they go to a local dealer to basically buy stablecoins. But in other countries, like, it's still really expensive to get in and out of stablecoins, right? You're paying, in a country like Singapore, you're often paying 50 bips, right? And that means that you kill a lot of use cases in the process. If you have to pay 50 bips, like, you're not going to go.
50 bips is nothing, because in most places you're paying 200 or 300 bips.
Yeah, you're paying 200 to 300 bips, right? For sure. But I think even it's kind of sinful that even in like a developed country like Singapore or the US and others, you're paying these sort of rates, because it really kills, like, everyone talks about real world assets, but if you take something like an interest rate, like a yield bearing stablecoin, which must be like 4%, you're not going to pay 0.5% so you can earn 4% a year. It means that you're only going to go and look at like highly volatile sort of assets as well. And so we want to bring together a bank alternative. We know that it's going to be hard in some countries because, you know, the on-ramp is still 200, 300, 400 bips, 500, in some places even like 1,000 bips. But we want to make it as simple as possible, and we want to do the hard work of the regulatory, the hard work of getting all the card platforms on, getting all the on and off ramp providers, whether they're banks, whether they're exchange, like in Latin America, a lot of them are exchanges like Bitso and others who are sort of like wrapping it together. But we want to do the hard work of wrapping it all together and then giving the user this like super simple experience where they come on and they have this sort of like magical feeling that hopefully you guys had in our version 1 product. It's like, oh my God, like this just works. In 3 minutes, I load stablecoins and it works, right?
Yeah, less than 3 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we really, really want to do. But there's still a lot of work to do. You know, like I think you guys have the right experience, but there's others who don't have stable coins, who want to get paid in US dollars, you know, because they're working in Colombia, maybe their employer is in the US and the employer doesn't have a way to pay them. And they don't have stable coins, the employer. And
it is very complicated. So one of the things that I'm actually realizing here is, well, you were the VP of, or the top C-level executive and in charge of the Circle operation in Asia for 2.5 years. And you're like, okay, stable coins are definitely a product. And I see the use and the penetration. But maybe what you realize is like, okay, it's a good product, but it doesn't have any type of capillarity. I mean, it doesn't go down. There's like the user that is walking in the street, the retail, they really don't have access because the onboarding of on-ramp. I mean, I'm a U.S. citizen, so I have a Coinbase, or I can buy it through Robinhood, or I can go to Gemini. For me, it is easy because I have access. But for the rest of the world, they have to go OTC. OTC is always going to be complicated. It's going to build friction. But one of the things is, well, you build a capillarity and then you come into the realization of something that is super easy. But this is something that has to do macro with money, which is, well, you can write and publish and say that BRIC is going to be important and that you want to have a yuan or RMD. The reality is that the only coin that people want to be paid in is US dollars. That's the reason why a bunch of Argentinians, a bunch of Venezuelans, they all have crypto wallets, because for them, it's the coin that they use. Now, imagine if you gave them the ability to not have a wad of cash and not have to deal with, like, let's say, with the volatility that most coins have because of the nature of a new technology adopting or growing as an S curve. You give them the possibility to spend in any type of local. I mean, you can fill up with gas, you can go and buy eggs, groceries, go and party, have a drink. So that's why I actually believe it's very important. And you were saying the costs are just ridiculous. Like, for example, we have a guy that does like the TikToks for us. But if you're going to pay this guy the TikTok, even if it's $400, $500, $1,000, it's 30. It's a flat fee of $30 plus the conversion. It is just, they're stealing hand over fist. And then the problem is, well, you can spend on the PayPal ecosystem, but the reality is not everything is an online transaction. You actually have to go to the place and spend it. So this makes me realize this could actually be, as much as you may say that Bukele's strategy of having Bitcoin in El Salvador is good from I forget the name of in English. Well, when people send money to the other country, that gave Salvador like an additional 10% in their GDP. But this is so much easier because it's just, hey, what's your wallet address? Boom, that's it. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to Bitcoin. You don't have to do Chivo wallet. You have to worry about the volatility. It's just pay out $100. And whatever the Solana transaction fee, and that's what I believe. It's so magical. I was taking a look before doing the podcast. All right, let me see how many points have I accumulated, and I'm like, oh man, maybe I have spent like a lot because I'm like at. Let me see if you can see, but I'm at like at 54,000 points. Good. I mean, I'm starting to be like a heavy user.
It's a good user.
And my wife is probably double that because she deals with everything in the house. So I think this is a very good technology, and this is kind of like the representation to the common user. But I want to explore your mind because you have written a couple of very interesting threads where you say, well, it's about reducing friction. It's the impact of being more capillary. Why don't you expand on your thesis? You wrote something super interesting yesterday. Like, hey, we should elaborate this on the podcast, because I think the most important products or services are the ones that you don't have to open them inside to figure out how is it that they work. They just simply work for a very big cohort of individuals, and that's adoption. So I actually think that this is the type of product, kind of like a helium on the pin, like it's on the blockchain, but you don't have to know that it's on the blockchain. So I think this is what where the next 100 million, 200 million users come from.
Yeah. I mean, look, the post yesterday was we made an announcement that we're going to be offering the ability for people to send money via SWIFT. Now, we know that this doesn't work for a lot of countries because their banking is not great, but there is still a lot of countries who are connected via SWIFT. And when you send money via SWIFT to one of the accounts we're going to open up, it's going to cost between 0% and 0.1%. Now, traditionally, this leg of sending cash, US dollars in to get stablecoins, has been where there is literally hundreds, if not thousands, of pretty big companies around the world whose job every day is to make money from this sending money in and getting stablecoins and sending money out the other way, right? What we've made the decision to do is forego all possible revenue related to this. Actually, we run it as a loss because we have to actually, pay for the platform and compliance and a whole bunch of other things. But try to get it down to zero or as close to zero as possible, because then it feels like cash. Like if I send $1,000 to my friend, right? Like currently in crypto, if I send $1,000 to my friend, they get somewhere between $990 to $950, right? Yeah. But what should happen is that when I send the cash to them, they should just get $1,000 or very, very close to 999 or 999.5, you know?
Yeah.
And then people will just start using stablecoins and crypto interchangeably with cash, right? And that'll just bring in, I feel, like hundreds of millions of people, because they're like, oh, there's no friction in getting onto this platform. And once I'm in stablecoins and once I've got it, then I can send it on chain to anyone, anywhere in the world. And it just accelerates everything massively. Now, today, there is places where you can get into stablecoins for zero, like practically zero fee. But most of them are exchanges. And the reason why the exchanges do it is if you upload, if you deposit, like say $10,000, and then you go on trade, they will make 1% to 3% from the trade, so they make their money back very, very steadily from that. We don't make our money back that easily, but we think it's worthwhile, like trying to take this to near zero, because we think for real life use cases, if we get it to near zero, things are just going to explode. Everyone is going to be saying, "Hey, pay me one of these like crypto rail accounts," right? A platform like Kast. And there's no downside to it. Like if you send me $1,000, I pretty much get $1,000, right? I don't get anything less. And then that will start taking money away from traditional bank accounts where people will keep their money, and it'll bring them on chain. And once they're on chain, as we know, there's like a million possibilities as to the things they can do, and then they start experiencing it. But it's the responsibility of companies like us to actually drive to give this experience the best shot that it can have, so we actually bring hundreds of millions of people on. As I said, like in another post, I think earlier this week, I was like, look, honestly, I don't really care about US politics whether Trump or Harris wins. All we know is that we had a very difficult regulator. And so we had a few days after, Trump won, Bitcoin at record prices for us all to gloat and say, hey, look, told you you're right, we're crypto, we're great, whatever. But now we have to get back to building. And the reason is that we've had Bitcoin's been around for 15 years, Ethereum's around 10 nearly, and we haven't delivered 1 billion users. We're still at like 200 million users. Yeah. Right? Everyone's like, I joke when people are like, oh, I want to go for the next billion. I'm like, where's the first billion? We haven't even got remotely close to the first billion. Maybe we're sitting around 400 million users, but active is less than 200, right?
Yeah, when because and the word active is the real difference, because it can be like us, we're just holding and doing trading. That's not the real population.
Yeah, and when you go and look at like platforms, like I was just doing some research the other day for my crypto hedge fund on some of these Like crypto has this really bad habit of just building infrastructure, right? Because it's like, oh, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to build so and so infrastructure. It's convoluted. It's the 10th version of some other problem. It has a white paper you can't understand, and then they go and launch a token, and then you make heaps of money from the token. But none of these things have any users. Like I went and looked at like ZK Sync, which most crypto people would know. I think it has like 50,000 active users, right? 50,000. Like who the F cares about 50,000 active users, right? And they raise money at like a multi-billion-dollar valuation, right? And they're not
I know how many daily active users you have within our group. Daily active users.
Yeah.
Which is almost like 95% daily active users of the ones that I know. Yes, yours is a product that is used.
Yeah, and so, but it's whether it's about our product or others, the thing is that crypto doesn't need more infrastructure. This is not a popular thing to say in crypto because people love keep building infrastructure. We do not need more infrastructure. We need more apps. We need apps that people actually use. The infrastructure is there. Solana's super fast. Now you got Sui and Aptos are breathing their heels as well somewhat, but Solana's still miles ahead. It's like next to nothing. It's like a cent to do a transfer, and it works pretty seamlessly. You've got wallets. You've got all the infrastructure you need. You don't need like even all the stuff that used to be hard with like gas and stuff has been largely sorted out. There's options so that you can remove that clumsiness of the experience. People don't have to have a key phrase anymore. They can log in with social login. So all the things that were like super hard before about crypto are largely sorted out. Now it's time to build apps, but people in crypto just love building infrastructure. And I think what's changing, we're starting to see people build apps, but there's literally no excuse not to acquire a billion users. If we don't have a billion users in crypto within the next 3 years or 5 years maximum, but really within 3 years, with everything that we have set up, then it's like, this is never going to happen, right? Like it's now or never is in my opinion, and that's why we're trying to lead the charge with that.
So I'm kind of identifying a pattern here based on your background. So you did infrastructure, you had cloud, then you work on stable. So it's kind of like you made the realization, well, the rails all are built. Let me build the app, and that in essence is Kast. And so yours is can we say it's a fintech or a financial company that is just built from the ground up on this new rail system, so you don't have to do the same kind of things that happens to a MasterCard, a Visa, that they have to go through all legacy systems and still hope that TPS will go faster and reduce the cost. So yours is a financial company built on good rails.
Exactly. And later on, once we get, I actually wrote an internal white paper on the thesis of this. Once we get to a certain scale, once there's a certain scale of users, there's going to be new infrastructure that needs to be built. But that's like 2-3 years away, right? You could potentially build like a new like stablecoin payments infrastructure. There could be things like, for example, unsecured credit lending, which would be very useful in a lot of markets. So there's other things that can be built, but the biggest issue is that people are building all these things and there's no users. So let's go and tackle the user problem first. By the way, just one quick thing. I've spent my whole life building infrastructure. This is my first B2C company, effectively. Like we'll have a B2B version as well. But I've spent 25 years in building and selling infrastructure, whether it's technology infrastructure or other places. So for me to make a switch, basically to leave behind everything I've done in my whole life to go after building an app, it probably says like this is desperately needed.
And that's actually a very interesting caveat, because I always have this discussion with a friend of mine, Camilo Botero. He's a managing partner at a VC fund. And when we're talking about investing in Solana, he was like, can they, let's call Solana as the infrastructure. Can there be apps or SPL tokens on top of Solana that could be worth more than Solana? I mean, sure, definitely. That could definitely happen, because it's kind of like Cisco built the routers and everything, and then came Facebook, which is an app on top of that all infrastructure. So that is very interesting. So Rags, what are you doing, you as a company? How do you think of like, okay, what is it that I need to do to bring 100 million users to Kast? Which if you do, you immediately onboard them to Solana. What keeps you up at night? How do you try to figure out? I mean, probably it's 1 million first, then 10 million, but I'm sure you're aiming for 100 mil, if not more. And so how do you think, or what's your approach to actually do it?
Yeah, I mean, look, firstly, it's like the model is very, very different when you're building in crypto first, right? Because the model that normally happens in fintech is you go and raise like some crazy sum of money, $100 million, $1 billion. Then you spend most of it on advertising to go and attract users, right? Versus the beautiful thing in crypto is firstly, there's amazing ecosystems like Solana who've been hugely supportive. They do posts about us. We never pay them for it. They just do it. You just build something good in the ecosystem and they really help you. But then the second thing is just like, I think the token model of like giving points and things like that also attracts more users in because they're like, hey, look, I'm getting something, and you're rewarding the community through the process. But to be frank with you, like, I think it's just like we're still in the early stages of discovery of like how do we actually grow this as fast as possible, and we're experimenting. I mean, if in a perfect world, I would put this in the front of everyone and they'll see it and they'll download it. It'll be amazing. But there's also a lot of stuff we have to build. We accept a lot of countries, but we don't accept every country. We're just bringing like cash on and off ramps in soon. There's more licensing that we need. So behind the very, very simple app is a lot of very, very complex things that we have to manage through. And because ultimately my goal is to make an app that's available to nearly everyone in the world equally. Anyone, it doesn't matter where you're from, you can pick it up and use it, but doing that is not simple. Like it's really, really complex. But yeah, to acquire the users, it's just a stage. Like we find that when people have it, they tell other people about it. So we're just trying to figure out ways that we can get the app in front of people unnaturally. But we don't have like unlimited amounts of money to do advertising yet, and
Okay.
so we have to think of creative ways. So most of it is community building. We spend a lot of time on key influencers in the community. We've been so busy building, we haven't had time to market properly. Now I'm spending a lot of time on the circuit in terms of podcasts and getting our brand known and things like that, so that people know that, hey, there is this company. One of the final points is that trust is super important as well, because people are giving you their money. And so they're like, hey, is this platform secure? I don't want to lose it. Do they have right security? So we spend a ton of time on security and compliance. But now I think it's also just the founders, myself and Daniel, getting out there, telling people that, hey, we're legitimate people. We're here to build a great experience for people, in a trusted way. And I think that will also help people trust, people. It takes a while for people to trust a new financial platform as well.
So one of the things I've never been, I don't believe in the loyalty points of airlines and credit cards, because I just think it's just an extra cost that it's layered in. And I just want the fastest thing and either the cheapest thing or the thing that doesn't, like, for example, one of the things that are super painful is if you travel international, you get a bunch of loaded mini fees on every single US, Euro transaction, Yen transaction. But when I started looking at Kast, I'm like, oh, this point back system is very interesting. And I was reading, everybody in the chat was like, please explain to us the dynamics of the Solana card where you're staking with the validators. And so I'm drawing this parallel in my head, which I think it's something very smart that you guys are doing. It's like today in the chat, we just did our claim of our MEV of our natural Solana that it's a stake. But the interesting thing is not that we claimed it, is that Jito and the validators that use the Jito protocol are actually giving it back, because they know that by giving it back, what they're doing is they're increasing the pie of users. So explain how the dynamic of the different points and kind of like the different layers or tiers that you have, because that is very, very interesting. I'm like, what? I have 50,000 points and now I have the equivalent of $1,600. That has never happened to me. And I have American Express Platinum. I have Apple Card, which gives you like 3%. And this really has us all very intrigued. And it's like, it's something that we want to understand the mechanics. And how is that because you have built on rails that are much more efficient, that allow you to share the benefits of you running a proper business, that is the reason why you're doing that? Or explain a little bit of the mechanics.
Well, look, I think that if you're building in crypto, you should build with the community, right? And you should reward the community. And so ultimately what happens is that the users that come on first, we have the highest earn rate for points. And then over time, over roughly season 0 to season 4 before we ultimately go to TGE and launch token. The points will reduce every season, right? But the people who are there early are earning on a really good rate. And so the idea about it...
Sorry to interrupt you. So the only way to have access to points to the TGE means token generation event for the audience that is not aware. So there's no way that if like I want to buy the Kast token, I cannot. The only way is by spending and using the card.
Yes, correct. At the moment, yes.
Interesting.
There's no way to buy the Kast token. So we're not trying to sell the token openly. We may do at some point a small sale for the community, because a lot of people ask, like, can we buy some?
Yeah, that's something that I wanted. I can. Dario, you saw it in the chat. Let's say that our group might be a little bit way over enthusiastic, and they were asking, can you ask him if we have ways to buy tokens?
We're going to be doing it maybe on eco.xyz or one of these platforms, but it's more like a community sale, just because people want access to it greater than what they can by spending. But ultimately, what we're trying to do is essentially get users to use the platform more, reward the users who are there early, and then at the point of a token generation event, subject to what are the terms and conditions in airdrop page, then they'll get airdropped those points into token, and then they can, subject to the conditions there, trade the token and it has some value. Now, I personally believe that a lot of tokens have just not been done the right way. And so we're building a lot of the token mechanics, so it's actually built for a long-term project. Now, we are building a cash flow positive business. We're not trying to build a fabricated business that has negative tokenomics for 10 years or something. We want to build a profitable, sustainable business that can serve users. And so that means that we will invest in also at some point trying to buy back tokens or give them some holding value as well. And also it means that when we distribute the points and the conversion to tokens, it's going to be slanted towards people who are there for the long term. We're not looking to reward people who are like, hey, I've got all these points and day one I'm going to dump it all because I don't really care about this project. We're the longer we're going to align the incentives, and we'll be talking a little bit more about it in the future, so that we want people who are going to sit here and hold the token for very, very long time. To me, one of the great models of this is BNB. If you look at BNB, I think when it's launched, it's gone up 1,000x or something crazy, but it's always sustainably moved up in price over time. There might be pullbacks, there might be ones that goes higher, but it's been pretty sustainable over a long period because there's an underlying really solid business under BNB as well. And so in a similar way, that's what we want to do. But really, it's about rewarding the community who's there early. And so the people that are there early will be rewarded. Now that you've mentioned it, yes, I think we will do some sort of token sale for the community before, because also what happens is the more users we get, the more revenue you get, the higher the notional value of the token will go over time, and we want to give users the opportunity to sort of buy in now as well.
So the token will have some sort of dual functionality. It would be a little bit of governance, and it will be basically, it would just be it would make an X amount of BPS from the business. So if Kast makes money, well, the token gets rewarded for the money that the business makes. I actually think it's so cool to have a technology that allows you to have a bunch of partners, investors, but well distributed in the world. I think that is a different type of animal, and most economies or new type of business have not realized that lies the new opportunity. Most people think, well, the Bolivar in Venezuela, it's down the toilet. But you know what's the weirdest thing now in Venezuela? It has become so dollarized that actually prices of real estate are actually starting to go up, because people are so used to the dollar right now that they built back the economy within their peers. They no longer care of what the government is doing if they're printing. No, they know which is the money that is worth money, that it allows them to buy food, groceries, and pay for stuff. And so I believe that you here represent almost a perfect example of how you can actually make that with technology happen. Explain the other thing that I also find amazing. you have a card, a new tier that says, well, if you're staking with us, then you get, I don't know, 15 to 18%. The word is not
Reward.
cashback. You
Points.
you get points, and to me that's amazing, because imagine all the hips and all the acrobacy that most companies have to do to make money. You figure out, well, kind of like how you've seen the company from Mert, Helios. People just started staking with him, like he's the second biggest staker. Or how kind of like Coinbase does it, is like the number one staker, and you're like, well, if you stake with Kast, then I have the ability to share back the wealth of having stake, being staking, and give that, I don't know, from 6%, which is the current APY, jump it and take it all the way to I don't know, 10, 15%.
Yeah, so basically, so essentially, like, we have our own validator as well, and people can stake directly on it. We give back 100% of the commission and the MEV. And so, but you can do that with your non-custodial wallet, which is like a sole play. You actually can't do it through Kast, because we don't want to have staking on the platform, just to keep it clear. But what happens is
you have a validator that's called Kast.
We have a validator called Kast, and you can use your Soulfare or Phantom to or whatever.
We're gonna share in the description the link to download it, and also the link to the validator, because I think that's very, very cool too.
Yeah, exactly. And so then you can stake from your non-custodial wallet, self-custodial wallet to Kast. But then what happens is that if you come into the Kast app, you can basically plug in the details of your staking, and then we'll give you Kast points on top of, you're still going to get all of your validator rewards directly back to your self-custodial wallet. But on top of that, you're going to get points in Kast. You just have to get one of the Solana cards. There's a free one if you want it as well. And then you're going to get Kast points there as well. And so really the game for us is like, we want to bring the Solana community onto our platform. And so we give away the points, but realistically, like, it's if you want to talk in business terms, it's cheap customer acquisition, because it keeps people coming back saying, hey, look, this is amazing. Like, I can collect so many points from it, etc. And so that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a dual leg of like, hey, look, I can stake my Solana on one side, and I can get points and be using like platforms such as Kast as well, and get reward.
So that is actually very interesting, because currently we all use Kast technically as a debit card. I mean, we send money to the wallet address, and we have to throttle it, meaning we have to figure out what is going to be our spend during the week, during the day, and I don't know, put $100, $200 to $300. So, Rax, what you're saying, then instead of doing that throttling, you could probably say, well, you know that you're going to spend $2,000 or $3,000 in a month, but instead of doing it on a daily basis where you're transferring, why not get those $3,000 and stake it within the wallet, and then does it extract from what is being staked, or what's the mechanic of that?
No. So there's still two separate things, right? So you still stake your soul. You still stake your soul on the validator separately, and then in the Kast app, you just claim extra points because you validated separate. You staked separately, right? There's still two separate things. Right?
And how do you make the association between the Kast wallet that is non-custodial and the other validator that you're staking? How do you do that?
You just plug in your wallet details, and we can see it because we've got an API on the validator, so we can see that you've actually done it.
But it's not live yet, or is it because I still need to download that?
It's going live. It's going live right now. So you should be able to basically have your Solana card. You get one of the free Solana cards, and you say, hey, this is my wallet address.
What you're basically describing. Just Dario is nodding because he just says, "Oh, we're gonna have to do an extra alpha video to explain step by step to all of the users."
We'll do an extra alpha video.
An alpha video, because they want to like, oh, so we stake. So now I'm staked with Jito, with Helios, with Juicy Stake, but now I need to add Kast, and then I have to tell it in my Kast app, this is the one, so that I get the extra point. So that's why that's why it says that on top of the 6 or 7%, whatever you're getting as a validator, I assume it has MEV and all of that good stuff, you're gonna get the extra Kast point. That's super interesting, man.
It was amazing.
We'll record it. I'll get my my
No,
tech
I
team.
think
We'll take you through it. We'll do a video, we'll record it, and we'll show you exactly how it's done live now.
yeah, we're kind of like guinea pigs. We'll just do it and try to read through it. But dude, that's super interesting. That makes such a ton of sense because that's a super incentive because you're gonna get the whatever you produce by having a validator, which is it breaks even. What's it? It's like a 25,000, 30,000 Solana. I don't know, whatever it takes to run a Solana. But with that profit, then you put it back, you give it in. That's a very smart way to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting. We don't actually make money from the validator as a result because we're giving away points and all these other things, but that's okay. It doesn't matter because we get the users come on, they spend with us, we make money through other ways. And so I think you're getting
you're getting a good deal.
Everyone gets a good deal. Like we give points. We're trying to take the cost of on and off ramp to zero. We're trying to make validating your SOL on our validator more attractive than the other ones give you. And we don't make money on those things, but we make money in other ways through our platform, through subscription fees, through credit card spending and things like that. So it evens out, and we bring a lot of people onto the on-chain, basically.
Right.
So that's the
in the group, I had a couple of questions. I want to be respectful of your time and I won't pass it over the 1 hour mark. But they were asking me, ask Rags, how much money can they load their wallet? I mean, is there a max? What is it? 5,000, 10,000, 100K, or does it depend on the jurisdiction?
There will be certain jurisdiction limits, but at the moment we can go very high. The max per transaction on the card is $100,000 US. So you can go and buy a car, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, if you go beyond a certain limit, depending on your jurisdiction, our compliance team may reach out and say, "Hey, look, we just need a proof of funds if it gets really high," and that happens. But that's mostly just us trying to stay compliant and try to keep bad actors off the platform. The demand for a bank alternative is so high from people that are just trying to live their life, right? And so we're trying to service them, but we also have to be conscious of keeping bad actors off the platform who are doing naughty things as well. And so we're trying to, we have to put some limits in place, but it's still, you can spend $100,000 in a transaction. We have people buying cars and all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah, and you have the ultra luxury cards. I mean, should I go and spend, was it 50 Solanas to buy the metal gold card, the one that has lights? What's the benefit?
They have a higher points earn rate, and we have different ones. Like we have the Solana Loom, which is 10 SOL. Then we have the gold card, which is 50 SOL. We have this crazy one, someone who's really, really out there wants to buy the solid gold card. This thing costs us $10,000 to make alone, and they can buy that for 50 SOL. We also have, by the way, the normal X card, which is 800 a year, and then we have the an 8 card coming as well. But that gives you more points, and it'll also start giving you more benefits. We're just wrapping it up there, but the points is really the big benefit right now. So look, frankly, you can get the base card for free, and that's good enough for most people. We're also releasing you can buy a plastic version of it for $100 if you need a physical card. But some people want the thick metal card. I've got one here. I don't know if you've actually seen it, but yeah, this is the Founders Edition card, which is one of 888. It's super thick. I don't know if you can, you probably can't hear it because I got headphones in, but when you drop it, it's super thick. When you hand it over to people are what is this thing? It's so thick.
It's kind of like the Apple card and the Amex Platinum. They just wait and they.
I actually have an Amex Platinum here, which is my personal one, and this is way thicker. This is way thicker and way stronger, and it's definitely it looks cooler. This is our version 1, so it looks good, but it's going to get even better. And people just are wow, what is this thing? It's so thick and so cool.
Within the app, can I just have 2 or 3 cards? Because I started with the one. Yeah. Okay. And I just added 2 Apple card. And does it give me an extra wallet address that decides which one does it preload or how?
No, they just take money from the same account.
It's the same address. It's the same address. Yes, it's just like when you have a kid that it draws from the same account. That's super cool, man. That's super cool.
That's one way to think about it. Yeah.
That's super cool. Which are your top 3 countries that currently have the most amount of Kast users? Is it going to be the US, or is it like Singapore, or
Yeah,
what
so
is it?
actually the number one is the UAE, and the Middle East region is very,
Of
very
course.
active. A lot of crypto users there. But then yeah, US Latin America is our second biggest region. It's actually weird because we're in Asia, and actually the Asian countries are very popular, but they're not at number one. It's actually the Middle East and US and Latin America where there's actually a huge amount of demand. And also, like, there's a lot of people in, like, spending money. I can see where the spend is by country, and like the UK, Europe, very popular for spend as well,
And,
and the US. So yeah.
and what is the stable coin that is used the most to recharge the cards?
USDT still by far, but USDC is very strong, and soon we'll be supporting Ripple's RLUSD. We'll be supporting hopefully Agora's Agora's stablecoin as well. We'll be supporting FDUSD and multiple others, because we want to kind of make it, like, you just bring what you got. A dollar is a dollar, as long as they're legitimate sort of stablecoins.
Yeah, it's very amazing, because I was, I don't know, maybe a year ago in Argentina, and the stable coin that was used the most was Tron. That is the thing and the same thing here in Colombia, Tron, just because it's cheap, and that's something that you have to live here to understand, that the impact of a transaction really matters to people, because that's a transaction which you say it's gas fee, that's a breakfast and maybe a lunch, those fees. Yeah. And so if you make it cheap enough and easy to use, it's
people will use it.
It's
USDT on Tron is still the king of stablecoins, because it's around, of all stablecoin pairs, it's around 40% of all stablecoins. Wow. Right? And actually USDT on Tron is bigger than USDT on each, for example, right? Wow. So just to show you how big it is. On Solana.
Yeah, so Justin's son is not that bananas. He really knows what he was doing.
He's a smart guy, I think. Like, he's actually, obviously given the low gas fees to give product market fit. And I love Solana. We love Solana, and Solana has USDC, USDT. It's got a number of other stable coins, but the whole entirety of Solana stable coins, it's still USDT on Tron. Tron just has USDT. It's still 15 times all of Solana stable coins put together, to give you an idea as to how much product market fit and network effects it has. And that's no fun on Solana. Solana obviously started later with stablecoins, and Solana has a lot of throughput on stablecoins, probably the highest in the world. But in terms of holders in these emerging markets, they love Trump.
So just to let you go, I don't know that if you have a question. So if I have, let's say, friends that wanted to invest in Kast, the only way they can do is just by going to TGE, or are you raising around, or like what would be the approach?
We raised from angel investors, some pretty prominent angel investors, and then some VC funds. But one of the things we're conscious about is, like, not being a project that's just locked to VC funds only. Obviously, we want to raise a lot of money for answer your question of, like, getting the brand out there and getting more users. We need, like, a large amount of funds to be able to do it for the marketing. But we don't want it to be like, hey, they're going to get all the benefits. So I think the more and more requests like this come through, I think, and then maybe the next 1 or 2 months, we'll look at doing some sort of, like, token, so you can buy it on some platform like eco.xyz or something similar, so that you can actually come on and we'll do some sort of token sale. I think we'll look at that, but mostly for the community, so the community can participate early before it goes to some crazy valuation or something like that.
So 3 links to share on the description. Obviously, the link that to download the app Kast, the link to the validator, which would be the Kast, and this one, the future token generation event link. That's pretty cool.
Sure, happy to do that. And then we're going to come back and do one to show you exactly how you do your staking on Solana and how you claim your points as well.
Before we say goodbye, anything that you want to mention, Rags, that we left out, we didn't address, or Dario, maybe you have a question?
No, I hadn't.
No, I think it's more just like, we're building a global company. A few of us started in Asia, but we have a lot of love for the Latin American community. So I think one of the things that's coming is we're going to have Spanish support soon. We're going to have Portuguese support soon as well.
Oh, if you need Portuguese and Spanish, talk to Dario. I mean, or if you want to do if you want to do headquarters in Medellin, we'll connect. I'll throw the mayor, whoever we have to throw, so that you get the incentives and you get good tech people.
This sounds
I'm
like a
sure-
good deal. It sounds like a
I'm
good
sure
deal.
they
Okay.
love to do it. That would be amazing to get Dario Kast headquarters in Medellin. That would be awesome, right?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Well, we need to hire a lot more concierge support in other languages, and we need to hire more tech talent. So if you're inviting me to Medellin, it sounds like I'm coming to Medellin to come and check
I'm
out.
going to be
our
here
office
in the
there,
next
so.
3 months. I'm going to be here. So if you want to come and say hello, introduce you, and like, you need concierge, help desk, whatever, coders, and just build infrastructure, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, cool. It sounds like a invitation I can't refuse. Okay, I'm gonna go and start looking at tickets. But yeah, just a quick love to our Latin American community. Obviously, great supporters of our platform, and we're listening to you. We're going to build a lot more features. We're going to allow you to send money into the US in cash, so you can get paid for the work that a lot of people in Latin America are doing. And so then to use a card, we're also going to introduce off-ramp via partners, so you can also move money to your local bank accounts as well. So there's a lot coming. Bear with us, we're only 4 months old, but we're building as fast as we possibly can.
Rax, this has been amazing. Thank you for the time. I know you got early. I wish you the best, and we're hardcore users of your product.
Yeah, thanks guys, love the support, and let's do this again soon, and hopefully I'll see you in Colombia very soon.
All right, man, thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye. Take it out.
Bye.
Rax, you speak Spanish or no?